Oh, hello, it is I, Gomi, and we're going to be back looking at the co-main event of UFC 281. I'll be perfectly honest with you, there's not a ton of excitement for this fight, to be honest with you, because I'm not the biggest fan of Carla, but I am a pretty big fan of Zhang, so let's see how this plays out. Yeah, let's just get into the tail of the tape. We're going to be looking at Carla Esparza, the champion. She is going to be 35 years old, having a record of 20 wins and 6 losses, 4 knockouts, 4 submissions, 5'1" in terms of height, fighting out the orthodox stance with a 63-inch reach, having a takedown average of 3.25 and a significant strike accuracy of 35.48. And she's going to be a plus 280 underdog. Now, I want to get this out of the way. I may not be a fan of Carla Esparza, but I'm not going to deny her skills. And 280, that's insane. That's an insane odd right there. Like, I'm definitely going to put some money on there. Not a lot, but I'm going to put some money on there as insurance. What are some significant wins she has? Rose Namajunas twice, which is a very important win for her. Marina Rodriguez and Alexa Grasso. Not a ton of crazy wins, to be honest with you, but definitely like nothing to snuff at. And then the challenger, Zhang Weili. 33 years of age, 22 wins, 3 losses, 11 knockouts, impressive, 7 submissions, impressive once again. She's a finisher, you can tell. 5'4" in terms of height, switch stance, 63-inch reach, so they're going to have the same reach. She has a 2.09 takedown average and 34.21% significant strike accuracy. I am surprised at that stat, to be honest with you. To see that she has the lower significant strike accuracy, that's a little surprising to me, to be honest. And she's going to be a minus 360 favorite. Wow. Boasting notable wins over Joanna Jędrzejczyk, Jessica Andrade, and Tisha Torres. So, let's break it down. Let's get into it. So, Carla Esparza. In case you don't know, Carla Esparza is very much clearly a wrestler. Now then, but first thing I gotta mention, she's not the most accurate wrestler, having a very low takedown percentage landed. 25 takedowns out of 124. That's not a super high stat, but it's still enough to mention that she is definitely a threat. She is definitely a threat on the ground, but not a traditional threat, not a submission threat, because she has a very low amount of submission attempts. What Carla Esparza is she's the kind of person who's going to take you down and give you little pot shots, make sure you keep you a little grounded. Not really a lot of danger in terms of getting finished, honestly. Most of her fights, most of her wins are actually going to be by decision, only having 8 finishes, 12 decisions. One such example, as you can see, against the Rose Namajunas fight. But the Rose Namajunas fight is also a good example of her striking is not terrible, because Rose is a very good striker. Yes, they didn't really do anything in that fight. Don't remind me of that fight, by the way. I saw that live. That was a shame. But yes, Carla Esparza has made it very clear in that fight, though, that she could stick, she could move, she could jab. She is able to survive on the feet. That's something to mention, and her wrestling is something to note. Now, a lot of people are expecting Zhang, clearly the odds tell. A lot of people are expecting Zhang to run through Carla. I don't think she's going to run through her. Why do I not think she's going to run through her? Well, first thing to mention, how's the way Rose beat her in the second fight? Yes, is going to be via wrestling. Rose took her down, she was able to hold her, and she was able to land little pot shots to keep the fight from being stood up. What is that reminiscent of? That's reminiscent of Carla Esparza and how she primarily fights. So, it's going to be a hard one. That's basically the main denominating factor between the two. The main link is Carla Esparza beat Rose twice. Rose beat Zhang twice. Granted, they were beaten by very different ways, but that's just something we have to look at. That's just something we have to mention, and it is very much easily a way that Carla Esparza could take down Zhang and hold her there. I do think Zhang has a power advantage. She definitely has a strafe advantage. But still, who knows? Another thing too that I'm just gonna mention as an X factor, but one I hate hearing this. Zhang cited her reason for losing to Rose in the first time was that she was shocked by the boos, she was surprised by the boos, and she was thrown off by the limelight. She couldn't handle the big picture. I hate hearing that. I'm not a fan of that, but clearly you can tell that's a big thing from her. I saw in the actual embedded, she trains like framing it, everything like how it's gonna be in a fight. Like she has the audience, her fake audience, which is her team. She gets announced in. She does all this for training and sparring, which is interesting but concerning. Trust me though, I feel when she walks into the arena this time, it's not gonna be boos. She is not getting booed. And that's another thing to cite too. In her most recent fight where she looked amazing against Joanna, she was not getting booed in Singapore. I don't think she's gonna get booed in Madison Square Garden because I don't know how much fans Carla Esparza really has right now at this point. So that is a factor, but this is gonna be big stage. This is big stage, lots of lights on her. She's fighting for the title a third time. Yeah, this is gonna be big for Zhang. I hope she doesn't crack under the pressure. But now let's look at the skills that Zhang has, because I've talked all about how Esparza can win. Let's talk about how Zhang can win. Well, first thing is she is a massive pressure fighter. Absolutely. When it comes to pressuring opponents, she's honestly one of the best women's fighter to just absolutely blitz opponents. And her striking is very, very good. Do not get that twisted. One such example was her beatdown of Jessica Andrade. Jessica Andrade was actually the aggressor in that fight, and she pressed the pace hard, but she got counter-struck to oblivion. All it was Zhang just shot counter after counter after counter after counter. She was smart by all her strikes, and she matched Jessica's pace while fighting on the back foot. Eventually, it became too much. The damage she accumulated was too much for Jessica Andrade, and then she was able to now press the pace, and oh man, she pressed the pace. That is a very good fight to notice. Another one is going to be Joanna Jędrzejczyk. Now, in the second fight, she actually dominated her when it came to the grappling, believe it or not. The first fight was almost exclusively a standing affair, but still, she was able to effectively use the grappling, so we could see perhaps she learned from the Rose fight, the second one, and perhaps she really adapted to that. What we're really going to have to see from Zhang, honestly, is takedown defense. Carla Esparza, as we've noticed, is not the most accurate when it comes to takedowns. So what she's really going to have to do, Zhang, is going to have to focus on moving away from the takedown, breaking off, not maybe completely stuffing it, but just trying to prevent her from bringing her down. And then clinch striking. Clinch striking is something that Zhang is actually very good at. She definitely has some good clinch strikes via her knees. She doesn't pull a lot of it, but one thing to note is back to the Jessica Andrade fight, mainly because she blitzed her with those knees. They did damage. Those were devastating. Simple path to victory for Zhang Weili is to get Carla to shoot, defend against it, frame off, and knee. Maybe even elbows, honestly. Elbows, uppercuts. She just has to fight low. She has to fight low, and she has to be ready. But don't only expect takedowns, because Carla Esparza, she can throw hands. She's not going to be knocking Zhang out, I don't think, but she's going to be able to throw hands. And I don't want her getting clipped. I could see this fight going decision. I could absolutely see this fight being a decision fight. And if it's going into a decision, I'm actually going to lean towards Carla Esparza. But if we see the Zhang that came out there and fight Joanna Jędrzejczyk in her last fight, ooh, we could definitely see a KO by Zhang. I could see a really nasty knee hurting her, dropping Esparza, and Zhang going in for the kill. I'm not sure about a submission threat, to be honest with you. I don't know if Zhang's submission game is good enough for Esparza. It's good enough for a lot of people. She's got a good submission game with 7 submissions. But still, I'm not sure about that, especially against Esparza. Overall, I myself am going to be leaning towards Zhang by a finish. I'm going to say probably a early finish. I think if Esparza is able to survive the initial volume, she could definitely get a tired Zhang and just wrestle with her. We saw that against Rose. We could absolutely see that. I personally am rooting for Zhang because I really am not happy with Esparza's fight against Rose, but I will be honest, she has had some decent fights in the past. Like, don't get it twisted. I believe her fight against Yan was actually a pretty decent one. Bloodied up really bad. That's a lot of it, to be honest with you. What was another good fight she had? Alexa Grasso was actually a pretty decent fight, but yeah. This is actually the first time I'm rooting for Zhang in a while, I'm gonna be honest with you. I like Zhang, but I was a pretty big Rose fan. Not as much now, but still a fan. And I was a really big Joanna fan, so I rooted against her in each of those fights. I'm sorry, Zhang, but don't worry, I'm rooting for you now. And just because this is probably gonna be the fight she loses. Well, regardless, let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Give me a like, potentially subscribe, and be on the lookout for more UFC 281 coverage. This has been Gomi. Bye-bye.